So for this question, what it's really asking for to saying what do these lines really represent is asking for what is the equation of these two lines. And so you know that you can use this formula, y equals mx plus b, the slope-intercept form, to do that. So m being the slope, which is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1, and b being the y-intercept, which is when x is 0, where do you fall on the y-axis here? So let's start by getting the equation of one of these lines. So let's just pick this line on the bottom here, just for now. And so let's start with the slope. Let's pick 2 points that we know the values for, like this one. So you know that this is 3, the x, and 2, the y. And you know that this one is 8, the x-coordinate, and 0, the y-coordinate. And so the slope is equal to y2, which is 0, minus y1, which is 2, over x2, 8, minus x1, 3. So you have negative 2/5. And what is your y-intercept? Well, the y-intercept is where do you fall on the y-axis at x equals 0. So for this particular line, you're about 3 point something, let's say 3.2. So now that we have the slope and the y-intercept, we could recreate that line. So y equals negative 2/5 x plus 3.2. Now that doesn't match any of the answer choices here, and that's because they want you to do some type of manipulation. So first, let's bring everything over to the same format that they have here, with the variables on one side and the constants on the other. So we could do that by bringing the 2/5 x over. So we have 2/5 x plus y equals 3.2. But since this 2/5 x is a fraction, let's also turn this into a fraction, and that is 16 over 5. And you can get that if you don't know by just going into Desmos, and you can see that plugging in that 3.2 and clicking this button will give you that 16 over 5. So now that we have that, let's try to match one of these formats here. So what can we do to get rid of the denominator? We can multiply both sides by some constant. So let's multiply both by 10. That way you'll have 20 over 5, which will give you 4x plus 10y, because you have to do it for everything. And then you have 160 over 5, which is the same as 32. And that actually matches D. So you could actually just stop here because no other answer has this equation. So you don't have to do this for the top line here. But if you were to do that, you would do that in the exact same fashion. You could also kind of do this problem without doing any real math, and that's if you really understand the slope and the y-intercept in this form. So what I mean by that is, take a look at these lines. You know you have a negative slope because as you increase your values of x, your y values decrease. And if you bring all of your answer choices into the form of y equals mx plus b, you can find your slope. So take a look at A, for example. If you move negative 10x to the other side to try to get y by itself, well, you have to turn this negative into a positive and then divide by a negative number. So you will have a negative slope. So this is a potential answer choice. But if you look at B, if you move 10x over, you have a positive 10x, and you divide by positive 4y. So you have a positive slope. So it can't be B. And the same is true for C. So it can't be that. So you know you either have A or D. But if you look at the y-intercept, you know that the y-intercept for this line is about 6 point something. And the intercept of this one is about 3 point something. It's like, okay. But take a look. If you have 6.4 divided by 10y, you have 64 divided by 10y, you get 6.4. So that's potential one. And you have 64 divided by 4. Well, that's not going to give you 6 point something. So the only answer choice is D. Okay, for this problem, we're just solving a system equation, so let's start by rewriting it. And for some reason, whenever you generate these problems, they are way too close together. It actually should be separated like that over here. Okay, so how would you solve a system equation? You isolate a variable to solve for one of them, and then plug it back in to solve for another. If you add these equations together, you could eliminate the x. So 2/8x plus negative 2/8x will just give you 0. And then 4/7y plus 4/7y will give you 8/7y. And then 12 plus 12 is 24. So you have 56y equals 24 by distributing this 8. And so you get y is equal to 24 over 56. Which means y is equal to 3 over 7 if you simplify it by dividing by 8. Okay, so now we know what y is. So you can plug it back in to one of these equations to solve for x. Either one of these, it doesn't really matter. 2/8x plus 4 times 7 times 3 over 7 is equal to 12. So you have 16x plus 4 times 3, because these 7's cancel, which gives you 12, is equal to 12. Which means that 16x is equal to 0 and x is equal to 0. So now you have the value for x. So lastly, you can just plug in these values into here. So you have 8x, which is 0, plus 7 times y, which is 3 over 7, and that will give you 0 plus 3. So the answer is 3. Okay, for this question is asking what is the slope of the line n, where n is a perpendicular line to this. So you know that the slope of perpendicular lines is the negative reciprocal of one another. So we need to get this line and find its slope. And you do that by getting into the form of y equals mx plus b. So we have 3y plus 12x is equal to 5. And now we have 3y equals negative 12x if we bring it to the other side, plus 5. Y is equal to negative 4x plus 5 over 3. So now we have the slope. The slope is just negative 4, and the negative reciprocal is be negative 1 over 4, which is 1/4. And that's because this will have the invisible 1 underneath it. So for this question, we're giving an unknown constant k and some information that the y-intercept is of this form. And I want you to find the y-intercept. Okay, well you know that the y-intercept is always when the x-coordinate is 0. So you're always going to have the form of 0b. So with that information, you know that k minus 5 has to equal 0. So k, bringing the 5 to the side, k is 5. So fill in this table, we have 5 and 12. Okay, so that's one piece of the puzzle. So the next thing that we need to do is reconstruct the equation of the line in the form of y equals mx plus b. That way, you have your y-intercept here. But how do we do that? So you could actually recreate this line from the slope-intercept form, which is y minus y1 is equal to m x minus x1. You know the value for y1 and x1 from this table. So just plug everything in. So y minus y1, which we can take as either one of these really. Let's just take the top. Minus 13 is equal to m x minus x1, which is 5. Has to be from the same row that you took y1 from. Okay, but we don't know what m is. That's fine. You know that slope is y2 minus y1 over x2 minus x1. And we have these tables giving you the values of x1, y1, and x2, y2. So we just plug them in. So m is equal to negative 15 minus 13 over 12 minus 5. So working this out, you have negative 28 over 7, which is negative 4. Okay, so now we have the value for m. We can just plug that into here. So y minus 13 is equal to negative 4x minus 5. So y minus 13 is equal to negative 4x plus 20. Y is equal to negative 4x plus 33. So your y-intercept is 33. So this question is asking, given this equation, which one of these does not have a solution with this? So we could actually do that a little differently by using Desmos. So you could plot this line here and then plot every single answer choice, and whichever one of those lines does not have a point of intersection with this line, that means there is not a solution for it. So let's do that right now. So going to Desmos, we can first plot the given line, which is 3x is equal to 36y minus 45. And now we go with every single one of the answer choices. X is equal to 4y, and that has a point of intersection, so we can take that out. And then you have 1 over 3x is equal to 4y, and that one does not have a point of intersection. So that has to be the answer. And if you did not want to use Desmos, the way you can solve this is by saying that two lines will not have a solution if they are parallel to one another and distinct. And so what does that mean? So that means that the slopes have to be the same, and the y-intercepts have to be different. So we can make sure that our answer choice follows that logic. So let's start by rearranging the equation that they give us. So they say 3x is equal to 36y minus 45. And so that says 36y is equal to 3x plus 45. And y is equal to 3x over 36 plus 45 over 36. And our answer choice, if we rearrange this, 1/3 x is equal to 4y. Y is equal to 1 over 12x. So you know our y-intercept is different because this is 0 and this is 45 over 36. And you know our slopes are the same because the slope is 1 over 12 and the slope here is 3x over 36, which is the same as 1 over 12. So our logic is correct.